How do dreamers, thought leaders, paradigm shifters change the world? They have to ask themselves this one question: am I willing to chase my dreams? If you want to know how to push the boundaries of your influence, impact the world, and live out your God-given dreams, then this is the podcast for you. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Passion and Prestige Podcast. I am your host, world changer, dream chaser, and all-around nice guy, Teron Nolan. I'm glad you are here with us because today we are talking about priorities. Yes, we all have them. We all have a list of things that we prioritize above other things. But I want to challenge you to think about your list of priorities. And if you need to do some adjusting, then do it. Because it's so important that we have our priorities in order. So let's talk about it.
They just wanna knock you off the top, but I ain't gonna drop till I say so. Till I say so. 'Cause I say so.
My father was the greatest man I have ever known. Oh boy, this is going to be a tough one. He was strong and courageous, tall and funny. His smile would light up any room, and his laugh, oh boy, his laugh was so contagious that no monster, gremlin, or bad guy could experience it without laughing too. He was a real-life superhero. In fact, he was the first black superhero I had ever seen. My dad's name was Marvin James Nolan, but most people just called him Big Marv or Black Samson. I don't really know where that came from. He was the youngest of three, the baby, and the glue that held his entire family together. He was my Superman, my heart. He was my dad. The first Superman comic appeared in 1938 in the Action Comics #1. From that day on, the world would never be the same. Faster than a speeding bullet and wearing one of the flyest superhero suits known to man. Superman became the symbol of power, truth, and justice. I loved Superman and spent my days as a child running around the house pretending to beat up bad guys. The world was my playground, and as long as Superman was there, everything was going to be just fine. Even though Superman was the man of steel, my father was the man of flesh. And steel was supposed to beat flesh, but not in my house. My father was the man, a giant teddy bear, but would move the heavens if you disrespected his family. In the words of Tupac, he wasn't a killer, but don't push him. Once, I almost witnessed my dad completely destroy a man. There was this neighborhood drunk that would terrorize the block. All the kids were told to stay far away from the bad man with the funny juice. One hot spring afternoon, while at my grandmother's kitchen table, the phone screams. Not rings, it screams. You know, like when the phone's trying to warn you to brace yourself because you're about to hear some bad news. That was one of the only times I had ever heard my grandmother curse. My mother had gotten into a terrible accident about half a mile from my grandmother's house. Before my grandma could fill us in on the details, my dad raced out the house to check on his bride. I had never seen a man run that fast. It was like he was floating above the ground, his fears of every worst-case scenario growing louder and louder, greater and greater as he approached the scene of the accident. My grandmother, sister, and I half walked, half ran. Neither of us ready to face what we were about to see. With every step, I kept hearing P-Shad whispering, "Your mommy's dead. Your mommy is dead." I could smell gasoline and the sweet plasticky smell of antifreeze as we approached the final curve. They say when you're about to see an accident, you can't take your eyes away. But they never tell you that when you're about to witness the aftermath of an accident, your eyes and brain start to piece together furiously the snapshots of everything you just seen. My mom's car was a mangled mess. Twisted metal around twisted metal. Glass was everywhere, so much that it looked like it was snowing on the ground. As a kid, it's difficult to tell the difference between oil and blood, especially when they're both spilled onto the pavement. Everything in me did not want to look, but I had to check. I had to know for myself if my mother was alive. In what looked like a cocoon of metal, there was my mom, breathing, but in excruciating pain. P-Shad was wrong. She was alive. I ain't a killer, but don't push me. I ain't a killer, but don't push me. If I could have visited my father's thoughts in that moment, I'm sure those are the words that would have been plastered in his mind. The drunk man with the funny juice had stolen a car a couple of blocks away and had crashed it head on into the front of my mom's golden Camry. Ironically, the drunk man only suffered scrapes and scratches. He was banged up a little bit, but still able to flee the scene. This man thought he had killed my mom and actually left her to die alone. That day, I learned the definition of a true coward. My dad was furious. This was the first time I had ever seen a black man turn red. Remember I said that my dad was a teddy bear, but if you disrespected his family, he would move the heavens. Well, that day, needless to say, the heavens were shaking and shifting. My dad was going to kill the man that nearly killed his wife. Luckily, my grandma in her petite 5'0" frame was able to hold back Superman. That day, I learned the true power of strength. I have only cried once while reading a comic book. I can still remember it. I was sitting in my bedroom holding the thickest comic book I had ever seen. The cover was shiny and showed a battered and bloodied Superman being held by a woman. For some reason, his Superman suit was torn off, and his cape, that iconic cape, was blowing in the breeze, broken and barely recognizable. I cried that day. Each page of that comic was like reading the worst parts of my nightmares. Superman can't die. He's the strongest person I know. I didn't know it then, but that moment crying over that Superman comic book would prepare me for one of the most painful moments I would experience 24 years later. I held my dad, held him tight as he laid in bed dying from pancreatic cancer. I was there as my father breathed his last breath. The last thing my dad said to me was that he wasn't afraid to die and that he loved me. He closed his eyes as life left his body. That day, I learned the cold, hard truth. I learned that Superman really did die. My father did not go after that guy that day or ever. I always wanted to ask him why, but deep down I knew the answer. My father understood that his family was the priority, and if he followed through on what he wanted to do, his family would be destroyed. You see, priorities are a tricky thing and can take a lifetime to master. The things that we regard as most important will become our priorities. And my father showed me that day when he could have just told me? What are the things that you prioritize most in life? Those are the things that you are going to give your most attention to. If it's high on your list, you're going to focus on it. But if it's a low priority, you're going to neglect it. It's going to be easier to overlook it. Now, I know Passion and Prestige Tribe. We talk a lot about following our dreams, but today I want to just refocus us. Dreams are important. God has given you dreams to follow, to pursue. But, and there is a but, make sure that you have your priorities in check. Go through your priorities. Go through what's top on your list. And if you need to readjust something, then do it. I am so thankful that my dad understood his list of priorities because there was a deep desire that he wanted to achieve. Now, it wasn't the best desire. He was going to go after that man and he was going to do harm. But my dad was able to stop and look at his priorities, his list of priorities, and say, I can't do that because if I do that, everything that's on the top of this list is going to crumble. That's strength. That's prioritizing. That's keeping the main thing the main thing. So Passion and Prestige Tribe, I'm going to end this episode the way I end every single episode with these powerful, powerful words. Chase your dreams until the dreams you chase become reality. Go and change the world. But make sure that you have your priorities in order. So now that you're part of the Passion and Prestige Tribe, I want to know what you think. I love hearing from my listeners. So if you wouldn't mind taking a screenshot of you listening to this podcast and tag us at Passion and Prestige on Instagram. And don't forget to go into your podcast app, subscribe, and leave us a 5-star review and a 5-star rating. This helps us reach way more people. Passion and Prestige Tribe, thank you so much. I will see you next week, and remember, chase your dreams until the dreams you chased become reality. Go change the world.
They just wanna knock you off the top, but I ain't gonna drop till I say so. Till I say so. 'Cause I say